Hello and welcome to So Now What with Gates Cambridge, a podcast tackling some of the world's wicked problems with those who are dedicated to doing something about them. I'm Catherine Galloway, and my guests, as always, are Gates Cambridge scholars working to make an impact in the lives of others. But we're switching it up just a little for this, our third season, to focus throughout on ideas of leadership, the key theme for Gates Cambridge in 2026, and an essential attribute for every scholar selected every year. And we're going to be showing you, not telling, how this works in practice, as each episode in this season will pair a current Gates scholar here in Cambridge in conversation with an alum out there somewhere in the world beyond. What can they learn from each other, and where will they lead us as they unpack the question in front of them? And where bigger and better to begin than with the leaders we have right now? In his BBC Reith Lectures last month, Dutch historian and optimistic realist Rutger Bregman named immorality and unseriousness as the two defining traits of our leaders today. It's not the most capable who rise at the moment, he said, but the least scrupulous, before calling for nothing less than a moral revolution across the board. As New Year resolutions go, it's a whopper, but Bregman knows such revolutions rarely come from the top. Rather, it will take everyone leading differently from wherever they happen to be. For most of us nowadays, that probably means online, but that's also one of the most Wild West, under-regulated, high-stakes, noisy, fractured spaces we have. So, how do you lead ethically in unethical times? And how on earth do you do it from behind a screen? Joining me on Zoom from Seattle today, I'm delighted to welcome Amy Zhang, member of the Gates Cambridge class of 2011. And sitting beside me at Bill Gates Senior House, otherwise known as Gates Cambridge HQ, is Rahem Hosni, a brand new Gates Cambridge scholar, part of the large and celebratory 25th anniversary cohort who stepped through these doors in October. Thank you both so much for being here and for boldly agreeing to go there on the issue of ethical leadership.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Now, Amy, you're an expert in social computing, literally building systems that improve discourse, collaboration, and understanding in what we still fondly refer to as the real world. You're an associate professor at the Allen School of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Washington, where you lead the Social Futures Lab, a co-founder, too, of the non-profit Discourse Labs, which works to build better conversations online and off, and a research director at MetaGov, a collective studying digital governance. In neatly clickable terms, you believe that we do actually have the power to direct our technology to both resemble and serve us better, and leading in that direction involves great code and genuine human connection. Rahem, you're also thinking about digital power from inside the very part of it that seems to be racing away from us, namely artificial intelligence. Your PhD project right now turns this perception upside down, presenting AI as a vital new space for popular resistance, empowerment and creativity, not least in the global south. That work has already led you to serve as an AI advisor within the consultative network of the United Nations Secretary-General's AI advisory body, lead the Arabic Electronic Literature Network, and even co-author the prize-winning Al-Bara the Announcer, the first AI novel in Arabic. Clearly, we're not in any of the usual places or with the usual suspects for a conversation about leading our technological future, and I could not be more delighted by that. So let's begin with one thing that you're bringing to the table today that's going to help us start thinking about this differently. Amy, let's begin with you.
Yeah, so I'm bringing to the conversation today mostly just a feeling of unsettlement, I guess, or feeling unsettled. I think it is a really challenging time right now, given major changes in technology, kind of upending all of the work that we do and needing to react to it, and the fact that it's moving quite quickly, particularly in the case of AI, and having to kind of always be one step behind and trying to catch up with what things are going on. So that's how I'm feeling today professionally, as well as personally.
Yeah, a feeling of unsettlement then in a period that has been known or has been tried to be described as the Great Acceleration. Rahem, what about you? What have you brought to the table?
Well, so I am bringing a sense of hope to that table today because much of the hype around AI focuses on how AI could take over and how AI driven systems and digital technology in general um, could replicate and reproduce biases and inequalities. But I believe in that there is another side of the story. I believe in AI and using AI differently to empower the weak, the underrepresented communities. So that's why I bring the sense of hope.
My goodness, that is the perfect nutshell, really, of where we're all sitting, isn't it? And a mixture of unsettlement, hope, start of a new year. What will it bring? Well, let's begin by defining our terms. What does leading ethically look like from where you are both sitting right now?
I think the world today is more in need of ethical leadership than ever, given this global disorder. And today there are a lot of conflicts, crises, ranging from short-term economic profits and priorities to digital surveillance to algorithmic censorship, wars. It's a difficult world now, as Amy have just mentioned now. So to lead ethically within this environment means to prioritize principles such as transparency, such as protecting human dignity, human rights, not to serve the powerful or authoritarian regimes or technology companies and corporations, but to protect the weak, to give a voice to the voiceless. So this needs foresight and how to deal with new technologies and the cultural shifts creatively and responsibly. This is what I believe should be ethical leadership.
And I know you'll be spending your Gates Cambridge years, Rahem, diving into that much more deeply. But thank you for that overview. What about you, Amy, from where you're sitting? What does ethical leadership mean?
Yeah. So I definitely agree with Riam that we're living in times where there are lots of examples of unethical leadership all around us. And it can feel sometimes demoralizing to see so many examples of that. But I also believe that there are many great examples of ethical leadership happening around us, happening online. If we look for it, there are, so many things that exist today that we love, that we take part in, only exist because of the tireless efforts of people doing things that they love, supporting their community, upholding their values. And I think what we need to do today more than ever is to support them, right? As Rihan mentioned, there are more and more powerful tools and technologies being created every day, and there's work to be done to put those tools in service of people who are doing good work, who are helping each other, who are helping their community. And yeah, I think that building tools, giving people power, giving people agency who are already doing this work is the work of my lab, is the work of many people in Gates Cambridge, and we should support that more.
How do you lead ethically in your own lab, Amy? You mentioned just now that you're now in your career at the point where you're leading a group of people. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I have a wonderful group now of about 7 students, postdocs, undergraduates, and they're fantastic, right? Like, I get hope from them every day in these times. Because they are really passionate about their work, because it's not the most lucrative career, but they want to use technology that they see being created around them for good purposes, for supporting things like democracy or empowering better online communities or pro-social interactions online. And a lot of the ways that we do it is as technologists, as people who understand how AI models work, how different systems that we are a part of online work, we can build them in a different way. Like we can think about the baked in decisions that have gone into their design that were created by people in Silicon Valley, people for different purposes, perhaps sometimes for commercial interests, and think about what would it mean for this to actually work for people for these other purposes. And sometimes in our case, that means like building third-party tools. It means building things that can sit on top of existing platforms or tools that people kind of have to use. But basically trying to show a different way of using these tools to allow people to achieve these goals.
You're both really working in social spaces and technological spaces that aren't completely socially defined yet. And that feels a little bit like an opportunity to lead by stealth. Would you agree with that definition, Rehan?
Yeah, actually, I am working on this in my research. I explore the potential of new technologies such as AI to empower the weak, the underrepresented communities, how to help writers, activists, artists living under authoritarianism to express themselves, to practice free speech, and at the same time to save their lives. So by providing creative techniques, by showing how to use AI differently in a new way, in a creative way, we can help those individuals to practice free speech, to write socio-political critique in such difficult circumstances.
This is not the mainstream view of AI. We hear a lot of hand-wringing. We hear a lot of oh my goodness, it's going to come and take our jobs. Oh my goodness, it's out of control. It's going so quickly. We're not really in charge of it already. But you're saying, no, it's actually an incredibly useful tool that we can use for good. Was there a particular moment when you suddenly realized the potential of it?
Yeah. I realized that out of need, because as a creative writer living in the Middle East, I need to express myself. I need to convey certain socio-political critique under authoritarian contexts. So I need to do that in a responsible way, and I need to do that in a safe way. That's why I launched a co-authored narrative project a few years ago, Al-Barrah, employing augmented reality, hologram, AI techniques to provide certain socio-political messages to the readers. We are trying to get our readers engaged, reflecting on questions of identity, resistance, trying to build layers of meaning with the help of AI technology. So out of the need for such possibilities and potentials of AI, we managed to do that, and hopefully we can, in my research, we can develop such techniques to be available and adaptable in other contexts.
So you used AI a little bit, not only as a co-author, but a bit as a Trojan horse almost. It's almost like modern day satire, really. We get that kind of critique under the radar in a way that doesn't look threatening, that doesn't look challenging to authoritarian regimes. Is that so? The idea of the announcer is the fact that you can announce certain things because you're using a very novel method to announce them.
That's right. Definitely, yeah.
Can you tell me a good news story about social media? How can we use it to lead ethically rather than be led by it? Because I know you've done a lot of work in that space.
Yeah. Now is a really interesting time in social media because I feel like there are a lot of experiments happening. Back to my feeling of unsettlement. for a while there, it felt like there were kind of the major social media platforms and like they were going to be dominant and you just kind of had to use one of them. But I feel like that has really changed in the last few years, where we're seeing a lot of new entries into this space. We're seeing different platforms that have different values or different design ideas, kind of shaking things up. And the major platforms have also themselves recognized that and tried to change along with the times. And so we're seeing a lot of fun experiments. Myself, like I am on all the major platforms. I'm also on a lot of the like alternative, decentralized, end-to-end encrypted, like various smaller platforms. And it's just fun to see people experimenting. It's fun to see some of these platforms open up their space for third-party developers to do things like try different feed algorithms, try different content moderation policies, different ways of like looking at how a feed could even work. So for me, that's very exciting. It again provides that agency back to people and back to communities to be able to experiment and make things fit their particular needs. And I think that we'll see more of this in the future, and hopefully that this will lead to a better space for social media in the future.
It's interesting because as you were speaking there, Amy, I was thinking about Tim Berners-Lee, and he's got a new book out, of course, called This Is for Everyone. I mean, famously invented the World Wide Web, famously then gave it away for free. And in this book, he's now come back into the fray and argued that the reason he gave the World Wide Web away for free was because it would only work if it worked for everyone. Then that didn't work very well for a while. The tech bros and the everyone's moved in. But he's saying we do still have the chance to restore the web as a tool for what he called collaboration, creativity, and compassion across cultural borders. He said we can re-empower individuals and take the web back. And what you're saying seems to be underlining that and saying, yes, actually, it's bubbling up from the grassroots in these smaller platforms, not necessarily in the mainstream. Can you tell me the kind of thing that you're seeing in practical terms that looks different to you?
Yeah, so the platform that I've been spending some more time on and doing some research on is called Blue Sky, and they are a decentralized platform. So much like Tim Berners-Lee, they are built on a protocol-based system where different people, not just them, can enter the platform and be able to provide their own front-end client, be able to provide their own moderation services, et cetera. So there isn't this sort of like centralized notion of we own everything. We are a corporate entity that is trying to, just get profit out of the system. And we are allowing kind of the community to decide where things go and how things should be. And so that's exciting because it's an experiment, right? You open the floodgates and then you see, what do people do? Like, what do people create, right? When they're given the opportunity to do so. And I think also similarly in the AI space, we're kind of at this nascent period where there's a lot of things that can still change about the way things are today, right? Like there are these massive platforms. There is the reality that to create some of these really large and performant models, you need kind of like a lot of money and a lot of compute and a lot of data. And yet there are different experiments led by different organizations, communities, and people trying to do things a different way, trying to build models in the open, trying to build small models, trying to be transparent about what they're building and why and how they're doing it. So there's different things going on, and I think it's just a time where we're still all trying to figure things out and see what happens.
What have you seen that's different in the digital humanities space? Because that is almost a brand new discipline that you are actually creating, you're leading on the creation of.
Yeah, in this field of digital humanities, and my recent research explores the lexical algorithmic resistance techniques that Arab users employ in deceiving content moderation algorithms, specifically by Facebook, because so many posts titles were deleted and accounts suspended, specifically pro-Palestinian voices were silenced in the last 3 years. So Arab users are developing creative resistance techniques such as splitting words, substituting letters, using old Arabic script to deceive the content moderation algorithms. So it's so interesting trying to understand what Desserto calls tactics, how to navigate these challenges and restrictions, and to be able to express yourself in spite of these restrictions and the censorship. Also in the Arabic history, we have Ibn al-Muqaffa and his book Kalila wa Dimna, using animals to direct sociopolitical critique, which is inspired by George Orwell in Animal Farms. So, now in my project Al-Barrah, I use such techniques of navigating through censorship, and we can learn lessons how to lead ethically, how to navigate, how to support the weak. So yeah, digital humanities create new spaces for reflecting on such topics. So yeah.
That's so interesting that you mentioned moderation there, because I know you've both worked on that. And moderation, gosh, double-edged sword, right? Because moderation is how things are led from within the space. Anything and everything we see and interact with online, there is moderation involved. But these leaders are self-appointed, right? But at the same time, if you don't have robust enough moderation, then somebody who might want to be a different kind of leader in that space might be quite nervous to put their head above the parapet. But at the same time, if the moderation is very heavy-handed, as you're explaining, Rahem, people need to find ways to kind of work around it to say what they want to say.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the problems that we see with moderation going poorly for people today has to do with this sort of one-size-fits-all issue that we have, where there's oftentimes centralized entities who are doing moderation for people who are in different countries, speaking different languages, part of different cultures, and trying to apply some sort of universal standard. Now, that's not like entirely true. Like there are regional moderators and that sort of thing, but it's still at the order of like, millions of people, I guess, to one centralized body or set of policies. And so a lot of what I focus on in my research is bringing that down closer to the individual and to the community level. So how much can we take moderation controls and decisions away from kind of the top level, where maybe you are focusing on these like broader questions of things that are like clearly illegal, to the more local level, where you have a much stronger sense of what my community needs are, what the norms are in my community, what sort of behavior am I trying to foster in my community? So beyond just, thinking about what to get rid of and take down, but also what am I trying to encourage here, and giving people more tools to be able to customize that for their particular needs. So that can be done at the community level. So you have things like Reddit subreddits, Discord servers, Slack groups, et cetera, Facebook groups. There are these local moderators who are doing quite a lot to have a particular set of norms within their community, and they need tools, they need support in order to be able to do that well. I think that can be a very challenging task. People have reported feelings of burnout when trying to moderate in these spaces, and even down at the individual level. So for instance, if you are a content creator, you are oftentimes trying to moderate your fan base, your community of people that are consuming your content, and in some cases trying to have dialogue with them, trying to support them in their needs, and oftentimes struggling to do so with the tools that are available to you.
Does that resonate with you, Rahim?
Yeah, we should create and fund spaces for such writers, authors, activists to reimagine reality, not just to reflect what is happening on the ground, but also to provide imaginaries for this reality, how to improve these circumstances, specifically in such a world where global disorder is a norm now. It's important to prioritize the principles of transparency, protecting human dignity, human rights, believing in inclusion, also developing a technology that serve the weak, not the powerful.
Do you see that coming anytime soon?
Okay, so actually I believe that this is happening now, and this is a good chance to give a shout out to all my colleagues around the world, specifically at the University of Cambridge. They are leading great initiatives, whether at CDH, CFI, here at Gates Cambridge Student Union. They are leading amazing initiatives supporting underrepresented and marginalized communities and societies. And I believe this is happening now. And maybe we cannot notice this now because we are living inside it, but I believe very soon we can see the results of these amazing efforts. So I want to say to them, you are not alone. Your efforts are inspiring. So yeah, thank you.
Ties right back into this feeling of hope that you brought into the beginning of this podcast. That's amazing. And does that resonate with you too?
Yeah, I think so. I think in this current moment, we're at a point where we are looking towards each other for inspiration and for leadership, and the stakes are high, but the opportunities are there. Like, I think that there's a lot of room for people to make a name for themselves and to do a lot of good in the world when they stand up for their values and for envisioning a better future. That in this moment, that it feels like so many things are changing and it's hard to keep up. But in this period of kind of rapid change, you get things shaken up, right? Like the people who were in power may not be in power the next time around. And there are new voices that people are kind of looking for to get to hear from. So I'm excited by that aspect, and I hope to see more of it in the future.
You say very openly your research has been funded by most of the companies that we think of as leaders in this online world of ours, you know, Microsoft, Meta, OpenAI, Google, Amazon, and so on. Are they looking to you to effectively lead the leaders in some way? Are they asking you to sort of point them towards a better, more socially beneficial direction for their systems? Is that what they're coming to you for, or is it something else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is sort of the role of academia, right? Is that we don't have as many of the constraints that companies have, and we can kind of think more broadly about what could exist out there if we kind of put away everything that is already there and we just reimagine things from scratch. What could be there, and what is the sort of ideal way to do things, right? Like we can run different kinds of studies and do design workshops with people, talk to people that the companies may not have access to, and dream up different things. And I do think that companies are interested in getting different perspectives than what they're able to get internally, and to see what outside communities come up with. So I think that is one role of academia today when working in collaboration with companies. And I think that's a way also for us to have impact back towards industry, is to be able to think of things to inspire what is going on with the people working inside.
That sounds exactly like what you're doing with your creative communities, Rahim. Would you like to give an example of how that's working in practice? The role of the creatives is not just the fluffy nice to haves, you know, the bells and whistles on the outside of the big tech. It's actually to gesture towards a future that isn't yet here, and to say this is a possibility, we can imagine this, so we can therefore build it.
Yeah, they are the truth keepers. I believe that artists, writers, activists are the truth keepers. They give hope to readers and individuals that a change is doable, is possible. It just needs resistance. And I believe in the idea of resistance as everyday practices, as advanced by critics such as James Scott, Deserto, Delows, how such simple activities like clothing, food, folklore tales, storytelling could be a kind of simple ways of resistance. So yeah, we need to, as writers and authors, artists, we need to give this hope to our readers. So yeah.
I love that idea of ethical leadership as a day-by-day practice. It's like exercise, and also what you brought in there, Amy, of ethical leadership is actually offering up voices that aren't usually heard, people that the big tech companies don't have access to, and say, you know what, you should talk to these people, you should consider this idea. Well, that brings us to, I think, an absolutely lovely point to conclude this podcast, but I have to ask you, so now what? We're right at the start of a brand new year, and I'd like you to give us some homework of what we should be doing in 2026 to help you in your mission of leading more ethically in these unethical times.
Okay, so the big question I'd like to leave our listeners with is, how could resistance look like if AI were developed to support the weak, not the powerful, to prioritize human dignity, transparency, responsibility, accountability, rather than the short-term economic profit or serving authoritarian regimes or oppressive governments. And to make this a reality, we have a role to play, all of us as readers, as technologists, as researchers and scholars, academics. We have a role to play to participate in this change. We need to shape this discourse, this ethical discourse around shaping AI, who designs AI, who has the right to speak, who protects this data. So we need to ask these questions and develop this argument if we want to live a better future.
Thank you. What about you, Amy? What are you going to leave us with today with your So Now What?
So I think the thing that I want to remind people of here is that we all do have agency when it comes to these social media platforms, in the small and in the large, and even in just the small aspect, like going on to the platforms you use, reflecting on why you use those particular platforms as opposed to other ones, doing a bit of research into these companies. And you do have more choice today, I would say, than you maybe did a few years ago, in terms of where you want to spend your time, which companies, which entities do you want to give your data to. And then also within the particular platforms that you're on, many of them do have settings that allow you to shape the particular experience that you would like. And I encourage you to be reflective and think, maybe I could do more here to unfollow certain accounts, or to change the feeds that I have set as default. The vast majority of social media users just have sort of the default settings, and don't go to explore more. And there's various reasons why. I personally think that it's actually hard. The design is made such that it is difficult for people to realize how much they can actually move away from those default settings. But knowing that, you can go in there and change quite a lot about what is being shown to you. And if you're unhappy with what you're being shown, there are some things that you can do to change that, and to have a relationship with social media that is maybe closer to your values, to how you'd like to spend your time.
Thank you, Amy. I'm going to write on a big post-it above my desk, "Don't accept the default," as my mantra for the whole of this year. Thank you very much indeed, both of you for joining me here. That's it for the first episode of Season 3. Many, many thanks to my guests today. Changemaker, computer scientist and leader of the Social Futures Lab at the University of Washington in Seattle, Amy Zhang, and author, AI advisor Reham Hosni, associate fellow at the Leverhulme Centre for the Future of Intelligence, and currently undertaking a Gates-funded PhD with Cambridge Digital Humanities. This has been, in the end, such a hopeful, thoughtful and empowering way to start this new year and this new season of the podcast. So I'm especially grateful to you both for that. All is not lost, so let's get to work. My thanks too to producers Mandy Garner from Gates Cambridge and Nick Saffel from the Central Communications Office at the University of Cambridge. And of course, thanks to all of you for listening. What do you think of the new format? Have we led you somewhere interesting today? Let us know in the comments, because we love hearing from you. I'm Catherine Galloway, and this was So Now What with Gates Cambridge. Join us again next time for another wicked problem dissected by those determined to do something about it.